pain in the market? At some point, you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
This is going to cause serious problems in three ways. The first way is that there's the immediate economic damage caused by the stock market wipeout. You've got people like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, who are usually what we'd call market optimists. They're very optimistic about the future of US markets. They're predicting a large recession, big recession, variance from 60 to 80% on that one. The second big issue you've got is that what Trump's essentially done here is he's made it look like the US is now not to be trusted in trade terms. The EU are just starting to execute their package of counter tariffs. That's going to be really bad for European markets, and they're going to target services in the US. And that's going to be really harmful for a lot of white collar jobs in the United States. And the third big thing on this one is that essentially now countries are going to stop trusting the United States when it comes to free trade policy. People are going to look elsewhere. And do you know where they're going to look? They're going to look at China, and they're going to look at other trading partners, big manufacturers, to see some certainty and sense there. And I think what Trump's done with this is he's essentially said, you can't trust us. And what China's going to do is going to limit the amount of imports from the US, and thereby put a further crush on some of those service sectors that the US actually exports out to China. That's banking, that's finance, that's accounting, that's management consultancy. And that's going to be really hard for those white collar jobs in the US. So that's what they've done in the short run. In the medium to long term, we'll see. But I think there's going to be a large diversion of trade towards Europe and towards North Africa and the Middle East. So what you have to do is you have to look at the Mar-a-Lago Accord, which was basically set up, essentially written up by some Trump's senior teams. And what they're worried about is the dollar being too weak. They're worried about the price of bonds, as they're known as gilts in the UK, the amount the government can borrow, and he wants to try and reservice the debt. And the way the Mar-a-Lago Accords want to do that is by slowing down the American economy, letting gilts fall, the yield on those bonds fall, and then they'll refinance essentially the debt in the US, which is absolutely ginormous. A Twitter account called Walter Bloomberg, not a relation to Mike Bloomberg, tweeted that a guy called Hassett, who's a senior Trump economist, had said that Trump is willing to put a 90-day freeze in place on the tariffs. That sent the markets haywire. They went up almost 3,000% over about 35 minutes before the White House came out and said, this is fake news, straight to the White House to say that. And they plummeted again. So now they're down less than 80%, about 80% lower than when the markets opened this morning. So that is just a classic case of the danger of fake news. It's probably wiped out another few $1 trillion worth of value. It's really concerning. And it just shows you how volatile the situation is at the moment. Markets want certainty. They don't want volatility. And we can see exactly what happens when some certainty is just rumored about in the markets.